Hello everybody and welcome back to Hot Chips, where we answer the age-old question, is Dark Souls any good?
It is quite an age-old question now, isn't it?
It indeed is.
And this time we're talking about the third one?
Yeah, Dark Souls 3, the final in the trilogy.
Oh, this is it?
This is it.
Trilogy, no more?
Yeah.
This is it.
Right.
Well, it's the last one that Miyazaki's going to work on, isn't it? Or he actually did say that he might come back to it if somebody begged him to at the office. So it's kind of still up in the air, but as far as we're concerned, we basically think it's
I think it's going to be the last Dark Souls. It might not be the end of the Souls franchise because there was a Demon Souls before
or even
this.
Souls-like.
Yeah, so Bloodborne and etc.
Yeah.
So we've got a sort of a varied range of experience with the Souls franchise. We've got, Theo, you've played the first one?
Yeah, about halfway through the first one.
I haven't touched a single one. The most I've experienced of the Souls franchise is I've maybe seen a few GIFs of people getting just wasted by big things. And
It's good fun.
Jordan,
And I've played all of them, all the Souls games, own all the Souls games. I've completed Dark Souls 3. I'm finished with it. I'm not finished with it because I will play it again. I will finish the story again. The games are very replayable, both in New Game Plus and new characters, different builds, different ways to play the game. And also, well, let's just get straight into it.
tell me what sort of game it is, because like I said, I have no experience with this.
Okay, so this is it's an action-adventure game where you are Mr. Souls. This is from Dark Souls 2. You are an unkindled, undead being. So you live in this world where death is not a permanent thing and people come back. And it's a very confusing story and we're not going to go all the way into it.
Yeah.
But basically, fire brings you back. And fire is kind of what makes life in this world. And as time goes on, fire dies out. And if it goes away completely, the world is in dark and life no longer exists. So it's up to someone, being the Lord of Cinder, to reignite this flame and bring life back to the world again.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the same story pretty much for every game is the same. You start off as the this kind of being of legend that has to rekindle the flame.
The chosen
The chosen undead.
Right. Is that similar in all of the Souls games? Like the story's the same across the three Souls games?
Yeah.
So the end goal is always the same.
Okay.
But obviously the characters, the world is very different. The games are all set hundreds, if not thousands of years apart.
Oh, right. Okay. So there is continuity between the three?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
and in some ways. You see, it's weird, you go back to areas, especially in Dark Souls 3, there's a lot of throwbacks to the first Dark Souls. You visit the same areas again. There's some of the same characters. You find the same items, but they've aged.
Right.
So it's really cool. So the game is known for its difficulty level, and it's a hard thing to explain. This game kicks your ass.
Yeah.
But it's not actually. I don't think of it as hard. It's not hard. It's just different.
Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah.
Are there difficulty settings?
No.
Right, so just the one difficulty setting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as in most action adventure games, you go out and you're the king of the world and you just smoke guys and in this, any one trash guy, if you just get it wrong, you're dead. It's a punishing, unforgiving game, and it's almost like a puzzle game.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
Gotta figure them out.
Yeah, so, and it's about kind of timing and waiting. You said that it's maybe a lot like Monster Hunter. I've never played Monster Hunter, but, just that knowing the enemy's move sets, finding your opportunities, and going through, and if you can do that, then the game's relatively simple.
Yeah, and so that was, before we started filming, I mentioned that that it had been said to me that if you were a fan of Monster Hunter, if you could play Monster Hunter well, you would likely be able to use a lot of those skills and move forward into Dark Souls with it. And if you enjoyed one, you would probably enjoy the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So something I always say about Dark Souls is that the first time you play it, you'll get to maybe, the first couple of bosses, it will take you 10, 20 hours. If you start it again, you could get to that same point in a handful of hours.
Right.
It's a game you feel yourself getting better at as you play it. And I think that's the reason I like it so much. It is one of those kind of mastery games. You feel yourself getting more powerful as the game goes on.
Going from, since you've played all three of the Dark Souls games, did you feel that every new game that came out, you were already good at it? Yeah. And you had less to learn this time.
Yeah. So I do feel like that, which made kind of the first couple of bosses really easy.
Right.
But the way Dark Souls works is you go to an area, like you progress through an area, you unlock a shortcut, you fight the boss, you go to the next area. Every time you get to a new area, you walk slowly and you have your shield up because you don't know what's going to come at you.
Right.
Once you know the area, you can blast through it.
Right.
Yeah. So the first playthrough always takes about 3 times as long as your next playthroughs will be.
Yeah.
It's an awesome game. It's an amazing game. It's one of my favorite series of all time.
Yeah.
Dark Souls 1 was my favorite game of all time. This game's right up there with it.
Yeah. So you'd say it improves on the previous two?
So the first one was a masterpiece. First Dark Souls was 10 out of 10. It was just amazing. Dark Souls 2 dropped the ball a little bit.
Okay.
Didn't quite have the magic. The magic's back for this one.
What is the magic? What was it missing that this one does?
It's level and character design.
Yeah.
Like it's the pinnacle of level design in gaming.
Right.
Like the way you get to a new area and the way they've laid it out, like it's not a path that makes sense, but you flow through the level naturally. Like, and whether that's on rooftops or through a sewer or like all these places you shouldn't be going, it makes sense to go there. And like these paths that you have through an area are just so good the way they lay it out. And they're masters of showing you what's coming next without you being able to reach it.
Right.
So you'll get to a new area and you'll see a castle like miles off in the distance and you'll be like, that's a cool looking castle.
Yeah.
And like maybe 10 hours you'll be at that castle.
Right.
And you'll be there and it's such a good payoff. And the game is just excellent.
So how long did it take you to finish Dark Souls 3?
This took me about 50 hours.
Okay.
But I went and helped. This is something that's really cool. Dark Souls 3, they've really improved the co-op.
Right. So so I didn't know there was co-op. So what happens? Is that something that's been in from the beginning as well? From Dark Souls 1?
Kind of. Dark Souls 1, it was a very solo experience, and you could only summon in random people from online. Now you can set a password and play with your friends.
Okay, cool.
So it's so your game is always your game. It's solo, but if you get to a tough point, you can bring in a friend and they help you progress until you get past the boss, and then they disappear again.
Right.
Now it is limited. You have to use a consumable item in order to summon people.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. So it doesn't make it too easy. It is difficult. You bring them in. They have like a set number of like healing devices they can use, so they're not overpowered. It will, if they're too strong, it will scale you back to their level, back to your level. But it's just made the game so much more fun. I've had 5 or 6 friends, on every night, jumping between each other's games and playing through it, and it's been honestly the most fun I've had all year in a video game. It's been honestly awesome.
Okay. Okay, that sounds pretty cool. So you played the Dark Souls 1, but you haven't played any of the others.
Yeah.
Is there any reason that?
It's just monetary. That's all. Like trying to get into it and being able to stick with all of that, it's really difficult. It's one of those games where I definitely would want to jump into it, but it is quite time consuming, but it's incredibly rewarding, as Jordan mentions, where you learn everything, you kind of go through it. I'm a big fan of the Let's Plays, going through the Let's Plays and seeing other people play it and exploring. I'm a big fan of the way that they do lore in this game, which is another massive hook for it. They don't really lay anything out for you flat. They do that more in Dark Souls 2 than any of the other Souls games. But the main way that they explain everything is that each kind of game has its own set thing that's happening within that time period of the lore and the world and the overworld and whatever. But there is that kind of overarching story of everything that's happening, and you can read item descriptions and things to get more of an information on what's going on with that lore. And I love watching the lore videos and seeing people go through the games and figuring out what's happening. It's really cool to see the reactions of like what that kind of lore is. But that being said, the way that they did Dark Souls 3 was so perfect. It was random because Miyazaki left for Dark Souls 2. He was working on Bloodborne. And probably a bunch of other things. But then he came back for Dark Souls 3, and that, of course, made it harken back to Dark Souls 1 quite well. And Dark Souls 2, they tried to change quite a lot. Yeah. And it was kind of with varying degrees of success. And it wasn't the best Souls game, but it was still pretty amazing. But then in Dark Souls 3, they've really brought it back to formula. And, of course, I think if they did that with Dark Souls 2, if 3 came out where 2 was, then I think people would be a little bit underwhelmed, because they'd be like, this is kind of just, it's fun and it's great, but it is more of the same. There's a lot to differentiate it. Like you can now consume for mana and you don't have to buy spells and things like that. It's getting a bit technical, just more for children.
Yeah.
And you get weapon arts and things, so your weapons are far more advanced in the ways that you use them.
Yeah, one of the great strengths of Dark Souls is that the weapons are really varied.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's a number of different styles you can adopt, and all weapons have a different move set.
So that does remind me a lot of Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
Big time.
So just to go back to your point on the lore, though. I think the lore of Dark Souls is both the game's one of its greatest strengths and its biggest weaknesses.
Yeah, a little bit.
Because the lore and the world building is so deep and so heavy, and then they just don't tell you any of it.
Yeah.
So there's no big cutscenes or anything.
So they have cutscenes, but they're very cryptic.
Yeah.
And most of the lore is told through item descriptions or just seeing something in the level that's like a guy looking at something.
Yeah.
The lore is a puzzle, and unless you're one of these guys that spends hundreds of hours, and there's people on YouTube that do it, deciphering this code that is the story.
Wow.
It's just an amazing the whole fact that that's there is amazing, but it also sucks if you want to play the game and follow the story.
A little bit, yeah.
I would like to, it almost would ruin the game, but it would be good in a way as well if you knew a bit more about what was going on and why you were doing things.
Kind of alluded to it.
So when you get to the end, since you've gotten to the end now, is there a big wrap up? Does the story wrap up in a way you're like, oh, I get it?
No, hell no.
Right.
Oh, for Dark Souls 3?
Yeah.
It kind of is for one. Not really
but again, it's cryptic.
Yeah.
It happens and you're like, what? and then you start again and you're like,
okay,
I'll go online and look up what that means. Kind of thing.
Everyone's got different interpretations. You're like, I'll pick this one.
There is 4 different endings to this game depending on how you play it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So what are there decisions that need to be made, or is it just like how well you did?
Yeah. So a lot of your actions. This is a game where your actions actually pay off in the end. How I always moan about that in some games.
Yeah.
If you fail to help an NPC, or you don't talk to the NPC at the right time, or you just kill him, or whatever.
Yeah, people die to kill each other.
Because one of the great strengths of Dark Souls as well is the NPCs here are really deep in terms of character.
Yeah.
Right.
And their stories unfold, and they have really deep stories. But they don't tell you how to make those stories unfold. So pretty much, I tried to play this run through blind, and none of my NPCs made it anywhere.
Yeah.
To actually get your NPC stories to unfold, you'd have to go look up what you had to do for them.
Oh, wow.
You have to talk to them multiple times as well, and you don't know how many times you've talked to them. And
and there's one bit where you have to find a guy that's fallen down a well and give him his armor back. And it's you'd never know to do that.
Wow.
And then it'll be your friend and you can use certain magic.
So if you know that, how did you find that out? That there's a guy that needs armor?
Because he's one of the most popular NPCs, and he just disappeared from my game, and I was like, what happened to that guy? And I looked it up and I was like, oh, okay.
Oh, right. So if you hadn't looked it up,
I wouldn't know.
Well, there's the way that the level design works is interesting because it's so organic that it is hard to tell where to go.
If I had have paid more attention, it's a game that you have to play. If you want to do those things, you have to play really slowly and follow these really cryptic signs. I think he hummed when he walked past a well. So if you kind of investigated that a little bit more, he would yell out, and then later on, if you were in the right place, you'd be able to find his armor again, and then you kind of put the two together, he was back in the well.
And you can just kind of explore, and sometimes in the game you can get a little bit stuck, and that forces you to explore, and you just kind of run across random things. Yeah. But for the most part, as Dark Souls 3 it still has a good kind of clear defined path that you can go down. Because I know Dark Souls 1, you were kind of like, I could go to Undead Burg, but I could also go down this well and into this crypt, but they're really scary. So let's just go to Undead Burg.
Similar.
It's similar.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
cool.
It naturally pushes you in the right direction without holding your hand.
Oh, cool.
Right.
Yeah. I can't recommend it high enough. It's a hell yeah from me.
Yeah.
It's probably I won't say it's my game of the year so far, but it probably is.
Right.
But we'll leave that for another video.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. You guys know my love for the Monster Hunter series, and this does sound very similar, but in a different way, if that makes sense. So you've got the multiple kind of weapons that have their own play styles. You've got creatures or monsters that you come across that have set style of attacks and stuff that you need to learn. Very Monster Hunter-ish. So I think I'm going to have to try and grab a copy at some point. I'm pretty keen to give that a go. So that's a year from me as well.
So that's the question answered. Yes, you should be playing Dark Souls 3.
Or at least looking into it.
Yeah, let's look into it.
If you haven't got it, go out and get it.
Or
you won't regret it.
Monster Hunter.
Or Monster Hunter. As per Reagan
Monster
in
Souls
every single
3.
thing we do.
The Reckoning.
Thanks, guys. We've got videos coming out every week, so stay tuned and hit subscribe. See you.